In today's Farm Report, bovine respiratory diseases can impact cattle herds and even kill some cattle. Emily Wilmes with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office shares some tips and what to look for to help keep disease out of your barn.
Today, I'd like to continue the conversation and discuss ways you can prevent this disease. First and foremost, watch for the early symptoms of BRD so you can catch it and treat it before it reaches a chronic stage. Early symptoms include fever, soft coughing, and nasal and eye discharge that is watery, sticky, and clear. There are several environmental and management factors to consider with bovine respiratory disease. One of the most significant factors that contributes to disease on dairy farms is overcrowding. Close quarters aid in the quick spread of disease throughout the herd. Another contributing factor is poor ventilation and airflow patterns. Additionally, and the cause of many health issues for cattle, is a dirty environment. Many organisms thrive in wet, warm conditions, and when your cows are crowded and poorly ventilated, conditions can get dirty fast. All of these factors stress the animal, which can lead to a depressed immune system and in turn can increase disease incidence. Thorough management can help prevent bovine respiratory disease. Here are some quick tips. Prevention begins with a good cow vaccination program against specific respiratory viruses used at pre-breeding and considered again at dry-off to improve the quality of colostral antibodies. A popular vaccine choice is a 5-way viral vaccine. Calves should receive 4 quarts of high-quality colostrum as soon as possible after birth to help build a strong immune system. Newborn dairy calves should be housed individually in pens or hutches and vaccinated against bacteria and respiratory viruses before being put in groups. Vaccinations should be determined by your veterinarian based on housing situations and management practices. Newly purchased animals should be isolated before introduction into an existing group. The stocking density of all facilities should be evaluated. Consider the square footage requirements of cattle at various stages of life. When symptoms of disease are detected, antibiotic treatments should be administered. As always, consult with your veterinarian when managing diseases and making decisions about treatments and vaccinations. If you have any additional questions about BRD, call me at the Stearns County Extension Office at 320-255-6169. This is Emily Wilmes with University of Minnesota Extension.
USDA's investment in a wide range of programs and opportunities to spur economic and community development in rural America is significant. However, as Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack recently noted,
to do that, USDA, which is investing billions of dollars in this effort, needs partners.
The Secretary's visit to the recent GAI AgTech conference in San Francisco was the latest effort to convince investors that rural America has a wealth of opportunities for investment, especially in the realm of innovation and infrastructure, in partnership with USDA.
We are looking for creative ways to partner and to leverage our resources with other resources in the private sector to be able to meet this exploding demand for infrastructure, to in essence create asset classes of our basic infrastructure, our water projects, so we can bundle them, our broadband projects, and even our agricultural activities, so that the investment class can become comfortable with what it takes to invest in rural America.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Bovine respiratory diseases, also known as pneumonia or shipping fever, can have adverse effects on a cow's production. Emily Wilmes with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office has some tips on how to manage the diseases in your adult cattle.
I was recently on a visit at a dairy farm when the discussion turned to pneumonia. The farmer mentioned to me how he knows a lot about prevention and treatment for his calves, but was less sure about pneumonia in cows. Pneumonia, bronchial pneumonia, fibrinous pleuropneumonia, and shipping fever are all common terms used to refer to bovine respiratory disease, or BRD. BRD is a major cause of economic losses to the dairy industry. Depending on the organisms involved, death from BRD can occur within 24 to 36 hours of symptoms appearing, or the infection can become chronic, producing widespread permanent lung damage. The animal may survive, but it will always carry some residual lung problems that will impact performance. That is why early recognition and treatment of BRD are so important. Bovine respiratory disease is defined as a complex. This is because it is usually caused by a variety of pathogens, both viral and bacterial, that interact with one another to produce disease, and the behavior of these pathogens follows a step-by-step process that results in sick animals. Bacterial pathogens cause the acute syndrome by invading the bovine respiratory tract that has been compromised by viral infections. Preceding and contributing to the infection is the stress of weaning, change of feed, and variations in ambient temperature and humidity, all of which tend to reduce energy reserves. BRD manifests in numerous ways in dairy cows, depending on the age of the animal, causative organisms, and stage of the disease. Identifying sick cows is, unfortunately, not an exact science, but watch for these early clinical signs of BRD. Fever, depression, inappetence, nasal and eye discharge that is watery, sticky, and clear, nasal discharge that is thick and cloudy, crusty muzzle, salivation, mild diarrhea, shallow and rapid breathing, soft coughing, and a stiff gait. If you are addressing bovine respiratory disease on your farm, a strategy you can use to manage the complex is identifying fevers, especially in fresh cow. Check temperatures for the first 10 days after calving, and do so in the early morning to avoid skewed numbers caused by warm, midday ambient temperatures. Another helpful tool is having a complete blood count, or CBC, done on one or some of your cows. This can help determine the stage of the disease and what the causative organisms are. If you do lose a cow, consider having a necropsy performed. This can help evaluate what organisms are involved and how various treatments are working. If one or multiple cows in your herd do have BRD, there are a wide range of antibiotic treatment options available. Like other antibiotic treatments, it's important to consider factors such as milk safety, speed of action, mode of action, spectrum of activity, and susceptibility when selecting a treatment. As always, you should consult with your veterinarian. If you have further questions about bovine respiratory disease, call me at the Stearns County Extension Office at 320-255-6169. This is Emily Wilmus with University of Minnesota Extension.
In some states, farmers are still not able to get into the fields to plant their crops. That was certainly true during the first 2 weeks of June when Agriculture Department statisticians interviewed farmers for the acreage report that has just come out. Extremely wet weather being the main factor slowing planting down.
Even a big enough factor that we will go back and re-interview some of these producers in fields where acres were still left to be planted.
Lance Honig with USDA Statistics Service says they'll interview cotton farmers in soggy Texas over the next couple of weeks, sorghum producers in Kansas.
And then last but not least for soybeans, Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri. Nearly half of those acres were still left to be planted when farmers were interviewed. So we'll go back, revisit those fields, find out what was actually planted and what wasn't planted there.
Once this new information is gathered and looked at, Honig says if they need to make changes in the planted acreage numbers, those changes will be put into the USDA crop report August 12th. That also will be the first survey-based forecast of actual production of this season's crops. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.